Growing up, my family struggled with constantly moving around the country due to my dad's work. My brother and I were constantly challenged by finding new friends, moving to new schools, getting attached to people, and then being uprooted from them. This continued until our early teen years. My brother and I were born a year apart. When we were 13 and 12, my family finally settled in a city we would call home forever. Soon after we moved in, we discovered that our neighbors had a son who was around my brother's age and ended up being in the same class as him. Needless to say, their friendship developed quickly, and they became very close. In the first few weeks, they spent every day together, and over the following years, this new neighbor's son became like a brother to my brother, forming a bond that was deep and meaningful. I was never jealous of their relationship, as my bond with my brother was healthy and unbreakable. Being quite tomboyish myself, I found a good spot within their friendship, and everything fell right into place. High school in my country works on a 3-year system. The first year, secondary year, and final year. During my brother's secondary year, he was diagnosed with kidney cancer and tragically passed away a few months later. This left my family devastated. Our neighbor's son, my brother's best friend, became a vital support system for my family. He was always there, offering help and emotional support whenever my parents needed it. He assisted with anything around the house or outside, not trying to replace my brother, but to ease the pain of his absence. His actions were incredibly considerate and probably the kindest thing anyone had done for our family. The year following my brother's passing was the last year of high school for our neighbor's son, a time when everyone was frantically preparing for university admissions. Just before summer began, he informed my parents that he had been admitted to one of the most demanding and prestigious universities in the country. The fact that he managed to get admitted was impressive in itself. My parents, despite their grief, found the grace in their hearts to feel extremely joyous for him and expressed all the emotions that overwhelmed them. This moment of shared happiness highlighted the depth of the bond that had formed between our families and underscored the importance of compassion and support during times of immense hardship. When they realized how things had changed, the reality hit my parents hard. The neighbor's son was applying to universities and getting admitted, while their own son, who had always imagined going through the process with him, was now gone. With that rush of emotions and joyous expressions, my parents decided it would be a righteous decision to offer him full funding. He had told them he would barely be able to pay for the first semester. My parents had saved enough money for my brother and me since we were born. So when he mentioned the amount, they were slightly fazed but knew it was within their range. Everything seemed fine and dandy. The boy went to university and eventually started a career as a pilot at one of the finest schools. I had no problem with it, as I cherished him as much as my parents did. That was, of course, until the following year when my graduation came. I got admitted into some of the finest medical schools in the country. The problem was that medical schools have the highest tuition fees. They're nearly impossible to get into and even more challenging to afford. When I informed my parents that I had been admitted to these universities, I expected them to ask about my options and how I would decide which one to attend. Instead, their faces showed far less joy than expected. They told me they were extremely sorry but couldn't pay for my tuition. Apparently, they had exhausted all their financial resources the previous year when they offered to pay for the neighbor's son's prestigious university. Basically, my parents had given away my college funds to their neighbor's son because they were emotionally moved at the moment and saw the light of their son in him. Their literal words meant that I would have to spend the next few years not studying as I had always imagined and hoped, but working day and night to provide for myself and pay for college. Instead of attending a fancy, prestigious medical school, I had to adjust my plans. The following years were tough for me. I was deeply saddened by the events and felt undermined and robbed of my privileges. Nevertheless, I pushed through. Working tirelessly and with the help of my parents, I eventually started my journey toward becoming a doctor. Despite the challenges and the sense of betrayal, I persevered and began to build the future I had always dreamed of. I've always wanted to be a doctor, and I've proudly practiced for the past couple of years. I earned my degree at the state university and started working at a firm. My life has been very stable and consistent, and I've been extremely happy and content with the events that led to the life I have now. I'm not sure what path the neighbor's son took in life, but whatever he is doing, I'm content with my journey. Recently, I received a letter from the neighbor's son. He had many emotions and things he wanted to discuss with me, and he asked if we could meet as soon as possible. I messaged him back, setting a time and place that suited me best. We met at a coffee shop a few days later and had brunch together. He told me that he had always felt a sense of guilt, feeling that his career didn't truly belong to him, as if he had robbed me of an opportunity. He said his parents had informed him that I had dropped out of university and devoted most of my time to making money, leading him to believe it was due to financial struggles. He hadn't been able to shake off the feeling of theft since realizing what he had cost me. He offered to pay me back all the money my parents had given him for university, expressing that he felt his career wasn't truly his own because it was handed to him on a silver platter. He felt it was granted out of pity or as a reward for the bare minimum after being taken from someone else. Me. Listening to him, my heart ached, and I felt uneasy as he insulted himself for something that wasn't his fault, but had brought good into his life. I assured him of how special he was to our family and how much he meant to my parents. I explained that what they did for him wasn't to grant him a career on a silver platter, but to fulfill a dream they would have loved to offer their son who had passed away. They saw a part of their son in him. I felt very sorry for envying him all those years and for thinking badly of him at times. Seeing him so battered and begging to repay me left an indelible mark on me. I am moving on with my life, believing that things happen for a reason. From the moment we moved into our home and met this boy to the moment I sat with him at brunch as one of the most successful people I know, everything has its purpose. Despite the struggles and the heartache, I have become the doctor I always wanted to be, and for that I am grateful. Thanks to my parents' money, which was meant for me and my brother. Things just happen in the strangest of ways, and sometimes we just have to believe in the process and trust that things will end up the way they're supposed to be. At least that's the thought process that helps me sleep better at night. Next story. A month ago, my boyfriend's mother fell in the house in the middle of the night and broke her hip. Living in our house are me, 27, female, my brother, my boyfriend, 30, male, his dad, divorced from his mom, and his mom. I don't know how old his parents are, but I think they're both in their 60s. His mom and I have never had a good relationship. I think she's rude, manipulative, and verbally abusive. I've had plenty of issues with her. She has given away gifts that my boyfriend had gotten me and then verbally abused both of us over them. She locked my dog in her room away from me, leaving him scratching and crying at one side of the door while I was doing the same on the other side. Not long after she went into the hospital, I suffered a miscarriage, my second one this year. I didn't know she knew I was pregnant, but she asked my boyfriend about the baby, and he told her it died, and we were sad. What followed was one of the nastiest text message threads I've ever read. She tore into my boyfriend, calling him awful and disgusting, saying the baby suffered before it finally died, and accusing me of being unfit to be a mother. She even told him to make sure I'm on birth control so I stop killing her grandbabies. Basically, she's a real joy. She's been in the hospital for a month. They did surgery and placed pins and said they will not release her until she's able to take care of herself, get to the bathroom, etc. They want her to spend a few days in a rehab center before coming home. She is livid. Every day, there is a new message from her to my boyfriend and his dad, accusing everyone of being abusive for making her stay there and demanding that somebody go get her now. I do feel sorry for her, as it is the holidays, and she had to spend Thanksgiving there. We're trying everything to get her out in time for Christmas. My boyfriend has MS, which on bad days means he can barely get himself out of bed. He needs help to do everything and some days can barely stand up, so he obviously can't care for her. His dad works all day, and with only him and me working, we can't afford to take time off. I guess she told the social worker that I would be available to help her so she could come home now. I said no. Under no circumstances will I care for her. She's been nothing but horrible to me for 3 years, and I have enough on my plate with my boyfriend, our dogs, and now her dog. I have no doubt she'll be home for Christmas, so I'm not worried about that. But I do feel guilty that me saying no means she could be in there for another week or so. His dad was on my side and told the social worker that there is no way anybody in the home can care for her to the level she needs. My boyfriend is a little mad at me, so I'm feeling really guilty. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are honest. There is nobody at home capable of caring for her at the level she needs. You and his dad have to work to support the family, and your boyfriend is not physically capable. This is completely out of your hands. The last thing you want is for this difficult woman to claim you were negligent in caring for her. There is no way you should make yourself responsible for her because there are many terrible ways she can use it against you. Protect yourself. Not the a-hole. You cannot look after two people. You'll end up with caregiver fatigue. Besides, based on her personality, she would likely be just as hateful to you while you're providing for her care as she is now. Also, how are you supposed to work while also caring for two people? Physically, it's not possible. She needs to suck it up and do rehab so she can return home. Next story. I, 32, male, and my wife, 27, female, are doing decently financially. I've been somewhat successful in my career. My wife works seasonally. She makes as much money in one summer as I do in a year, and she doesn't work from October to March. She comes from a very poor family, whereas my background is still very modest. She has two sisters. One is 24 and the other is 18. In August, 24-year-old sister wrecked her car and asked us for $1,000 to fix it. I was hesitant because my wife had loaned her money in the past that was never repaid. Her mother decided she would assume responsibility for paying back half of the money and the sister the other half, so I agreed. We want to help within our means. And to our household, $1,000 is a lot of money. We were repaid $500 by her mother. But the 24-year-old sister has yet to repay us anything. Then, my wife got a call from her 18-year-old sister asking to borrow $600. My wife approached me with this as we do our best to make all decisions together. It became apparent that her mother had suggested her sister ask us for money. This was very upsetting to me. I feel like her family views us as having a huge expendable income. We're living comfortably and have some money saved up, but definitely not in a position to be loaning out money regularly. My father always told me not to loan out money that I wasn't okay with not getting back. My wife agrees with me, and we're on the same page regarding finances and what we're able to do. Here's where it gets a little more interesting. My wife's 18-year-old sister knew this large expense was coming and did nothing to save for it. My wife told her that it was irresponsible behavior and that she needed to stop relying on others to cover for her. Now, my mother-in-law is saying that we just don't want to help her sister and that we dislike her. We brought up the fact that we have yet to be repaid from the last time we loaned money to the 24-year-old sister. We weren't asking to be repaid at that moment. We understand it's the holiday season. We were just using that as evidence that we aren't comfortable loaning out money right now. Yet, we're being labeled as a holes for helping one sister and not the other, and then bringing up the money right before Christmas. Are we a holes? Let me see if I have this right. The mother-in-law has at least twice encouraged her daughters to borrow substantial sums from the third daughter. In the most recent case, when the oldest daughter pointed out that the youngest daughter was being financially irresponsible, the mother-in-law immediately went on the attack, accused you and the oldest daughter of playing favorites, and chastised you for pointing out that the middle daughter hasn't repaid her portion of an even larger loan. Is that an accurate summary? If it is, then you might want to frame it that way for the mother-in-law and tell her that the situation has made you reconsider the wisdom of loaning money to family and that you won't be doing it now or in the future. I strongly recommend against telling her that it is causing tension in your marriage. She's sure to jump on that as evidence that you are the problem, saying that if you were a better person, you would allow your wife to influence you to be generous with her family, not the a-hole. First and foremost, it is your money. and therefore your own choice what you do with it. You've been kind enough to help out with the car situation, but you should not give any more if you haven't received any money back from her. I would safely assume that she would not repay this new loan on top of what is already owed. Not only will she not pay you back, but if you lend her money again, she will think she can keep doing it. The fact that her mother even suggested asking you for it is quite appalling. It seems as though she thinks you both are a money bank for people just because you have a decent amount of money. I would say to tell her a firm no. Make it clear you want your money back from the loan for the car, and tell her that no more money will be loaned out. Next story. Hi. I'm 16, male, and ever since I got my job, my parents have been making me give them half my paycheck for rent. I have 5 younger siblings, and my parents said I had to start pulling my weight. It really sucks, because they also want me to pay for stuff like new clothes and shoes. It was impossible to save. I really want my own car and some money for college. When I got a raise at my job, I decided not to tell them. My pay went from $8 an hour to $13 an hour. I was so excited. But I knew my parents would start making me pay more, so I hid it. Because I chose to get paid by check. I just take it to the bank and cash it so my parents won't be able to see the direct deposit. I can only work 20 hours a week because of school. So before, I could only save a little under $300 a month. But now I can save $600 a month. This has been going on for about 4 or 5 months. The other day, my mom found my savings and my parents confronted me. They could tell it was too much and made me show them my pay stub from the week before. To punish me for lying, they took $3,000 of the $4,000 I had saved. Now I'm back at square one and won't be able to save as much. Definitely not the a-hole. You work for that money. It's yours. It would make sense if they asked you for a reasonable percentage for rent. But 50% is too much, and now they're taking 75% of the extra that they didn't know about. That's way out of line. Maybe I'm overreacting, but this sounds like financial abuse. Hopefully, someone here will know more about the legalities, but it will depend upon where you live. Not the a-hole. Very toxic parenting. They basically just robbed you. Does your job have a way to pay you through a payroll card? It's a debit card they put your paycheck on. Ask if you're not sure. You could keep the money there until you're 18 and can get a bank account under your own name, or even get a lockbox and put the cash savings in there. Don't give them the key or code, no matter what.